My name is Michael Messele. I'm from Etherspot. And Etherspot, we've been around for a while and we provide smart contract technologies and account abstraction solutions. And lately we've gone with ERC 4337 based account abstraction as well. Okay, to answer this, let me give you a little bit of a parallel. Before 4337, we've been providing account abstraction. And how that worked was we have an SDK with a smart wallet. And with this smart contract based wallet, when a user sends a transaction, the smart contract picks it up. And then there is a layer which we called relayer. This relayers would then give the user an option. Say, for instance, if the user was on, say, Ethereum, and the user only had a stable coin, the user could have paid in that stablecoin, and this meta transaction, the relayers, would convert it for the user into the gas that it needed. So again, the old system did this. However, with 4337, we broke down the wallet, this meta transaction layer I've mentioned with the relayers, and the ability to sponsor gas transactions on behalf of your users into 3 separate modules. Hence, you can use a wallet from X, a paymaster from Y, and a process to submit this from X to Z. What this means is you have a new concept called bundlers introduced into the space. You have the wallet and you have a new independent paymasters. So that's just the overview, and I can go into details and explain. A smart wallet is a smart contract behind it. It is just like your normal EOA, which is your MetaMask, but the difference is with the smart wallet you can execute logic. Say, for instance, you can put in a spending limit within that smart contract. So when your daily limit has reached, the wallet says to you, no, you can't. You can do things like recovery options, where you can assign a specific, say, person or another device to recover your asset if you lose it, so that you're not dependent on your recovery words. You've got other options, and a whole lot more things can be done with a smart wallet because it understands logic. It's not just an address. So you can have multiple accounts within this, and etc. So again, this is pre-ERC 4337. What relayers are, they are a layer within the wallet. Say, for instance, you've just come in and said, I want to send my friend George has a wallet XYZ, and I want to send him 0.5 ETH. What happens is, in this scenario, when you send it under normal circumstances, you charge the gas from your wallet and it gets sent. But with the relayer, it gets sent to this relayer service. The advantage you have of doing this is you are decoupling the transaction payment from the sender. So you are allowing them, say for instance, if the sender only had a stablecoin in their wallets, you could use that stablecoin, deduct it from their account, and the relayer pays for it in the native token, but the user would only be paying from their stablecoin. Hence, less friction on the usability. That's what this does. So with 4337, this has become a different beast, really, which can really have a whole lot more usability. So paymasters are the things that evolved out of this meta transaction thing I've mentioned in the relayer side. What a paymaster is, think of it this way. There is a fund that is out there waiting, and with that fund, any gas payment requirement a certain user has can be paid for it. Say, I'll give you a use case, an example. Let's say you've got a DApp And within this tab, you want to promote the usability of this tab. And you say, you know what? As part of my promotion, for the first 1,000 users, I don't want them to pay gas. You can set up this paymaster and say, okay, this is my paymaster. Any wallet that comes and interacts with my smart contract, until it gets to 1,000, do not charge them gas. I will pay for it. So those users will just have a free usability. And you can even take it further. You may have a service that you say, I want to give my users a Web 2-like UX, and we make enough money from the service that we make. We charge them for this user, so I don't want them to be exposed to the friction of gas payment. We will subsidize and cover the gas payment. Just like any other merchant does when they use credit card-based payments, they do have a surcharge to pay. But it's just the merchants that pay. We, the retailers, don't know much about it. It's the same scenario here, in that you can sponsor the transaction need, the transaction pay need for your user base using the paymaster. So it is just a service anyone can set up. Okay, I want to use this paymaster. In fact, you can even take it further. If you have an open source paymaster, you can, as an institution, you can say to yourself, you know what, I don't want to use a paymaster service run by company X. I want to run it and host it myself. And you can do that. Again, just so that to make it clear, I draw a parallel. You use MetaMask and you submit a transaction. When you submit a transaction, it effectively ends into the mempool. And we'll come in touch what mempool is, just an area where transactions are kept and validators will pick it up and through builders, etc., it would get validated. Now, with 4337, the concept has moved on a little bit. Number one, you wouldn't be sending transactions, you'd be sending what is called UserOps. They're more enhanced transactions, so to speak. They have more data than the normal transaction. When you send these things, there are these builders, which we call bundlers. What they do is, you send a transaction, a certain bundler, say let's say Skanda, our bundler picks it up and says, okay, I've got a transaction from Francesco's wallet, from Jones, Albert's, Lisa's, etc. 15 people send transactions at the same time. The bundler picks all of those up and bundles them together. And it signs, instead of having 15 signatures, it signs once. It signs and submits it to the mempool, which is the main mempool. Let's say this is Ethereum. So what this bundler is doing is ultimately, because it's building these transactions together and signing once for them, if it is using BLS signature instead of ECDSA, which is the normal signature that is used, there's a lot of saving to be made here. You're not paying for every transaction, for every signature, you're only paying one for all of them. So the bundler does this service for you. So it understands this UserOps created from the smart contract wallets, which are ERC 4337 compliant or compatible. Then it processes these transactions for you. Hence, the name bundler, it bundles them together. A mempool is effectively where the transactions come in, they're held, then they're picked up to be built, put in a block for the block to be made. So that's the first entry point where you can look at it as this big bucket where new transactions are sent, and then then the different components that make a block have a look around and say pick them up and put them on a block so that they get validated and confirmed. So this is basically, with 4337, you've got a separate mempool as opposed to the old one with the canonical mempool, it is called. So the UserOp mempool, you send it using, as I said, a bundler service, picks it up, and the bundler says, okay, this is the mempool I'm looking at, these are the transactions, and I'll process them. These ones I like, these ones I don't like. Now, before we even go into this, let me define why we need all this. Why do we need this complexity and complication of having another Mempool, another processor called bundler. Now, I did kind of touch up earlier on with the pre-4337, where I've mentioned validators and given you a little bit description on validators. Now, the point with this validation layer is, say, for instance, Ethersport has got a validator. I can, in theory, if I know which wallets are used for this validator, I can do a DDoS attack and I can take that service down. But with the 4337 service, what happens is my UserOp, so the transactions I receive into my bundler, can be shared and will be shared with other bundlers automatically. Hence, if you take out a certain bundler, for whatever reason, it doesn't mean there is a breakdown in processing those transactions. Others will pick it up. In fact, there is another advantage for having the bundler service. Think of when you introduce a smart contract wallet, a certain jurisdiction can say to you, okay, wallet X, Y, Z, you can't process them. However, because bundlers are open source, and I can go from home and say, okay, I will spin off a bundler service to process my own transactions. It means I have created censorship resistance as well. So I have added resilience and censorship resistance by having the bundler service. So for this resilience to happen, yes, you've touched on it, you have to have shared mempool. Every bundler has a mempool that it looks at, but it has to be able to share that state with other bundler services. A shared mempool, I don't want to go too technical, but on a higher level, it has 3 domains for it to work. There is the discovery domain, there is the gossip domain, and there's the request response domain. So what the discovery domain does is, when a new bundler comes up, it says, okay, I'm a bundler, I don't know anyone. What are the other peers I can talk to? By using this discovery, they call it traveling salesman algorithm. By using this, it tries to find out the bundlers around it. As soon as it finds the first one, the first bundler that was before it would have done this, then it would have understanding of other bundlers as well. By default, you would have something like 50 bundlers with the bundler service, but you could have a lot more depending on how you want it. So that is the discovery. So now a bundler knows other bundlers around it. So it means it can receive other transactions from others. It can also send its transactions so that others share it. Now, okay, I'm discovered. What is the gossip? Then the gossip is basically, it is built on this protocol called libp2p protocol. It is called a gossip protocol. The reason why we need it is, based on this, it sends in basically an unencrypted way. It sends all the transactions I have received as a bundler to the other ones. I communicated to them. And obviously there are specific protocols, etc. used, which we don't need to go into those. But effectively, any bundler would have this gossip libp2p built protocol to be able to communicate to other ones its state, so that any bundler that comes in can have a clear picture of what is going on. Now the third bit is request response. So when a new bundler starts, it can use the request response to ask the bundler service, the other peers, can you tell me about transaction 13 whatever. Imagine, I talked earlier on about censorship resistance. And in this censorship resistance, my specific transaction has been said, earmarked, okay, don't process this. Now, because of this request response, I can even ask for a specific UserOp, which is an enriched transaction, as I've said earlier. I can ask for this UserOp and say, can you send me this UserOp? Then I can process it myself. It may not make sense to process it for others, but I can process it. So it has these 3 domains. Based on these 3 domains, it means we have an interconnected network where we can process any transaction without fail, and adding the sweetness of adding censorship resistance. There are some, as always, for people that have run smart wallets know deployment costs of smart wallets, and it's a function of gas price and grade on that specific network. If I were to tell you a story, when we've been running smart wallets, say from 2018, at one point, getting a smart wallet on mainnet was going to cost you about $200. Now, that's not going to work. So that is one challenge. The other challenge that I see is there are over 100 EVM chains or L1s and L2s. As we speak now, I have to deploy a wallet on every one of them, or whichever one you want, even though they would have the same address, but still. So the cost is key here. If it is fractions of a cent, maybe users won't even notice it because of the UX enhancement that we get. They can get it seamlessly. But the more expensive it gets, the harder it gets. Hence, EOS were the mainstay. Until around 2018-ish, EOS and smart wallets were catching up. It's just what when Gray went up over 100, then it kind of broke that. I think we are on a good way here because, as I've said to you, the V1 of account abstraction, which is smart wallets, it had a centralized element. What we have added with 4337, breaking out the paymaster, the bundler, and the wallet itself being separate, that is healthy. Number one, you have different entities doing this thing, so it's not one point of failure. Number two, even with the protocol itself, with us sharing the data, just like mainnet itself does, again, that is a huge thing in terms of decentralizing it. So at some point, maybe I can't put time on it, the smart contracts may be enshrined in the network itself. So again, that will be then the next level where we do not need to worry about deployment costs anymore. Because sometimes we forget things. When you say, oh, it's only 2 cents. It is 2 cents if the average per capita income in the society I operate in is $15,000 a year. What if when I go to a nation where the average per capita income is $800, do you think 2 cents is something that's going to be thrown away? So this is key. And when we talk about adoption, decentralization, it's not just for the elites, few people that can have the resources. It is a global thing. And Web3, ultimately, what we want is Web3 adoption to be where, as much as we don't talk about Web 1, view only, Web 2, crowdsource, but we don't term them as Web 1, Web 2. Web 1, oh, let me just go and find something. And we don't term it as Web 2, let me just go and tweet or Facebook. That's crowdsource. And Web 3 would become like that. We wouldn't refer to it as Web 3. So this decentralization is key. And because Web 3 gives me ownership of my data, that's the next level. Funny you say that, because there is a use case, an integration that we have, which I showcase to people a lot. And it's a betting platform, and I show them how to use it, and people look at me and say, so what? The reason why they say that is it feels like Web 2. They go in, they select the sporting they want, and they place their bet, and it goes through. They don't even realize which network it is connecting on. They're just using a certain stable coin, and it was seamless, and it is seamless. And that's what excites me. For me, to give users these Web3 services and capabilities without realizing that they are going through this Web3 and all what it entails about the friction at the moment. I have to sign this. I have to get this wallet. I have to get that gas. I don't care as a user. I just want to use your service. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for hosting me, and thank you, MetaMask.